I need to put the phone down, but I can't face what I might feel if I do. I can't face the boredom. I can't sit with time. I can't sit with the dullness of my reality. That self-awareness of how much time I'm wasting, an awareness of, wow, this is making me feel terrible, but I do it anyway. Why is that? Why can't I just be with myself? Why do I need the constant voice of another in my ear? I'm tired of letting an algorithm determine how I should feel and what I should think. But I do. Hello, so I made a painting about my phone addiction, and here is the story behind it. Something I think our society doesn't really talk about enough is just how addicted we all are to our phones. I think it's something we talk about to a certain extent, but deep down, we all know it's there, we all know it's true, and it just feels like something that's so hard to do anything about, because I feel like technology has become such an intertwined part of our society. You kind of cannot survive without a phone in the modern day. I mean, you could, but it would just make life so much harder. You know, it's our way of communicating, of getting directions, of storing information, of being entertained, of scheduling appointments, of ordering food. For some people, it's their full jobs, you know. I almost feel embarrassed talking about it to some extent, but for the longest time, I've just had such a struggle with phone addiction. In order to tell you the full scope of this painting and of my phone addiction, I need to give you a backstory into how this painting even came to be in the first place. Because this painting has 3 different lives where it looked completely different, three different phases basically. This painting began 2 years ago when I was coming home from 3 months in Europe. In December of 2022 is when I came back from Europe. Those 3 months were some of the best months of my life. I literally saved every penny to buy myself a ticket to Europe and enough money to sustain myself for 3 months. And I stayed in hostels and I did workaways, which is basically like a work exchange where you volunteer your time and work for, you know, it could be a hostel, it could be a retreat, it could be a farm. There's a lot of things you can do, and with that I got free accommodation, free food, etc. For the first time, I felt truly independent and on my own, and every day was basically just like a new adventure, exploring a new city, meeting new people. I literally met people from all over the world. I volunteered at a yoga retreat in Italy and a Buddhist temple in England, and literally every day, yeah, like I said, I would meet so many people in so many different perspectives, and I felt like I had a whole new identity in these 3 months. Because I felt so free, I felt so alive, and every day I was just preoccupied with the joy of exploring and traveling and being this higher version of myself, basically. I was so deeply inspired, and when I got back, all I could think about was taking all of these memories and turning them into paintings. I wanted to paint the people I met, the places I saw, the memories I had. So the first thing I did when I stepped into my studio was I looked through my camera roll just to find photos I could paint. And I decided I wanted to paint this picture. It was a Polaroid picture of me and 3 of the girls I met in Italy, because I had so many amazing memories with them, and I ended up creating an underpainting for that on this canvas, and I was so excited. But while I was excited, my mind and body were also dealing with the confusion of being back home, I think. You know, back home where everything felt familiar, back where the old version of me was. I noticed pretty much the minute I got home, my screen time went like way up, like double. And I'm not saying I was never on my phone in Europe, but you know, I spent so much time doing so many other different things that I didn't have time to doom scroll. Like, I was busy meeting new people and exploring new places, and every day just felt like a whole new adventure, and I wanted to be as present as possible. So I just wasn't on my phone as much, and it felt amazing. I felt so good. The minute I entered my bedroom again, I just immediately had this deep urge to scroll or to put on a YouTube video and just basically be on my phone. It was such a weird feeling, and it was even weirder because on the plane home, I really convinced myself that things would have been different. That this trip was gonna change my brain chemistry, and I was gonna come back to Chicago with a whole new fresh perspective, and I was gonna take what I've learned and really put into practice and just be on my phone way less, because it was definitely always been an issue I was worried about, is just how much time I spent on my phone and how much time I waste and how much life I miss out on, you know? Obviously, when I got back, that didn't happen because life just doesn't work that way. So I remember sitting in my studio, I was getting ready to paint, but suddenly this urge to paint just dwindled and I just kept getting distracted by my phone. My brain was literally itching to scroll, and so I remember sitting in my studio and I ended up scrolling for at least like an hour on TikTok. And it was as if I was in some like weird trance-like state. I just could not stop. So an hour passes by. I'm like, oh shit, I just wasted a fucking hour. I need to start painting. This is what I came to do. This is what I want to do, you know? But the effort of painting just felt like so much work. It just felt like, oh my god, I don't want to do that. That sounds boring. I'm not even inspired anymore. I just would rather scroll more. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna give myself just 5 more minutes to scroll and then I'll start painting this beautiful photo. So about 30 minutes passes by, I'm scrolling. And now I just feel like shit about myself. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You just wasted another 30 minutes. I could keep doing this. I don't want to stop. I had to like tell myself, okay, stop. But now my brain is just all foggy. You know that feeling? It's just like, it's almost like it's almost like your brain feels pixelated. It's just like, oh god, like where am I? What am I? Like, and the thing is too, I looked at my painting and suddenly I just could not resonate with it anymore. That version of me that was in the painting just suddenly felt so far away, even though it was literally like a few days ago. I wanted so desperately to create because that's what I was craving when I was in Europe, because I didn't have the tools to paint and I was so excited to paint again, but I just was not resonating with the painting anymore, and I was just feeling these feelings of numbness and just like I just wanted to escape. And I'm someone who only really paints what I'm feeling in the moment. It's really hard for me to paint like just things that don't resonate with me or things that I'm not feeling. I really flow best when I'm, you know, engaged with what I'm painting and I'm passionate about it. And so I decided, okay, maybe I should just paint something else. I decided I was gonna paint what I'm experiencing in this moment because it's not something that was new. Like, it's something, you know, I felt so many times before, of this just feeling of just like, god, like I keep sabotaging myself. I keep wasting all this time. And like there's times where it's like literally like 3 hours will go by and I'm just scrolling and it feels like 10 minutes. And I don't even remember anything that I learned on TikTok. It's the thing too, it's like, oh, like I feel like I'm learning something. No, you're not, because you're consuming so much, you don't even remember what you're doing, so it's just all useless. You feel like you're being productive, but you're not. That feeling of being so wrapped up in doom scrolling where you just cannot stop, but also simultaneously you are so self-aware that you are currently sabotaging yourself and taking so much time off your day. It's just that feeling of utter hopelessness. And just digging yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into this hole. Because the truth is, most of us doom scroll to avoid a feeling, to numb ourselves from our reality, or as a form of escapism. And I was so wrapped up in that I wasn't even aware that maybe I was feeling sad about my trip being over, you know, about not being in Europe anymore and losing this independence because, you know, I'm back living at home. And I couldn't even fully acknowledge that to myself though, because the second I was feeling off, I would just scroll. I would just get on my phone, I'd watch a fun video, you know, and the cycle would just repeat. And so I didn't even know I was feeling these feelings. I had to just keep myself entertained. I felt like an iPad baby who is crying at a restaurant and the only thing that can fix it is putting on Cocomelon. And there's nothing you can do, because to think of an alternative solution just feels so impossible, because the brain is so like, that's the only thing that'll help. It's distracting. And also, no hate to moms who, yeah, okay. Not being on your phone can sometimes feel impossible, because it's like, even when I'm feeling good, which most of the time I am, you know, I'll like feel good and I'll be cleaning my room and I'll be like, oh, I'm gonna put a podcast on. Or, oh, I'm on the toilet, so I'm gonna scroll. Or I'm brushing my teeth, so I'm gonna watch a video. Or before bed, I'm gonna scroll a little bit. Like, just all these things where it's just like, no matter what you're feeling, you're doing it. And it's just like, what the hell? and then it'll feel innocent. It's like, oh, well, this is making me feel good, so what's the problem? I tend to watch a lot of like inspiring, self-help, feel-good content that I feel like motivates me a lot. But when you're doing it in excess, it's just not doing anything for you. So scratching the other painting and painting this instead felt really, really good to me. I felt like I was finally acknowledging this feeling and recognizing this pattern, and especially when painting, because painting is such a form of expression for me. And throughout the painting, it ended up taking a lot of different shapes. I would add things and then take them away, and add things and then take them away, and it was just like, I was just really going with how I was feeling in the moment of what I wanted to put on the canvas. And so by the end of January, the painting ended up looking like this. And I really felt like it was done. I absolutely loved this painting at the time. It was my most favorite painting I ever did because it just felt so vulnerable and so prevalent to me. So that was the second phase. But flash forward to October of 2024, almost 2 years later, I still had issues, of course, with the constant need for entertainment. Nothing really changed from that moment after I made that painting. It never really went away, and for a long while, I ended up just ignoring that, and I just kind of accepted it as something I can't really control. I think it never really helps too when literally every other person around you is doing the same thing. Like, I live in Chicago, which is like, you know, whatever, a modern city. And so everyone's on their phone. All my friends, everyone's on their phone. You know, it's like, it's very normal. And one thing I noticed is, like, for me at least, I don't know if other people experience this, but it can almost feel weird to not be on your phone in public settings. Like, imagine, like, okay, you're alone, you're going to a coffee shop and you're waiting for your coffee. It's gonna take like 5 minutes. It almost feels weird to not look at your phone and to instead just kind of like stare and look around and just like be present, because then it's like, oh, what are you looking at? You know, like, it's such a weird thing that's like, why does that feel weird? But it does. But yeah, so for a while I pretty much just ignored the issue in those 2 years, while also still having that self-awareness at the same time that this is just not benefiting me. And so yeah, in October, I don't know why, but I just had the deepest urge to add on to this painting, because I suddenly was like, no, this is not done. Because it was actually very different than anything else I ever made, because I tend to put a lot of things in my art. My art tends to be very chaotic, kind of. It wasn't scratching that itch for me anymore. I wanted to add on to it, and so I did. I really wanted to capture this idea of digital flesh, of a digital footprint, which is a term that's used a lot nowadays, and I find it pretty fascinating because I just truly cannot imagine my life without a phone or some sort of technology. And again, of course, obviously, I would survive, but I genuinely cannot imagine it, because in a way, it almost feels like another body part. We are so attached to the hip with our phones, and we rely so much on it, whether we realize it or not. In the final form of this painting, which I have right here, I really wanted to capture the concept of our bodies intertwining with our phones. In the corner, I painted my recent watch history at the time, which consisted of videos about how to get off your phone, followed by a Just Trish podcast episode. Trisha Paytas, love her. And below that, Desperate Housewives, which was a series I was binging at the time and is now one of my favorite shows, by the way. On top, I added a veiny hand, which I actually used hot glue to make the veins like 3D-like, which was pretty cool, along with a face, a red face appearing to the right. So now there are two main faces on this painting. One is the big red face, the other is my face. And the two symbolize two perspectives when it comes to phone addiction that I've had. One, my face, which symbolizes that self-awareness of how much time I'm wasting, an awareness of, wow, this is making me feel terrible, but I do it anyway. Why is that? I want to stop this, but how can I when it's all around me? I need to put the phone down, but I can't face what I might feel if I do. I can't face the boredom. I can't sit with time. I can't sit with the dullness of my reality. Why can't I just be with myself? Why do I need the constant voice of another in my ear? I'm tired of letting an algorithm determine how I should feel and what I should think, but I do. The red face symbolizes that sense of almost acceptance in the moment. Acceptance that this is the reality that I live in, and there's no point of denying it. It is a part of me. It will always be a part of me, and maybe that's okay. I might just have to accept it. How can I resist the colors? How can I resist that video or that podcast or that song? It makes me feel good. It makes me feel connected. It makes me feel human. I have to put the pressure off myself. I have to learn to accept and to not take things so seriously. I have to give myself a break. You deserve this. You deserve to feel good. These are two perspectives that kind of fight all the time within my brain, and I'm sure fight in many other people's brains. When I finished this version of the painting, I knew for certain it was finished. I felt it perfectly embodied what I wanted to convey, and it is maybe my favorite painting now, again, just because of the long journey I had with it. Flash forward to today, February of 2025. I honestly have improved a lot with my phone addiction, and it was kind of unintentional, but it just happened because instead of letting these two perspectives fight against each other, like one had to be right, one had to be wrong, I wanted them to kind of work together to find a solution. On Christmas Eve, I partook in a data strike that was circulating around the internet. You get off all social media, you don't search anything, you just kind of don't go on your phone. And I was planning to do this for only 2 days, on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I thought it was gonna be really hard, especially with the holidays, you know, but instead I actually had no trouble with this at all, and it ended up being absolutely amazing. I felt so clear-headed. I felt more confident about myself, confident about my thoughts and my opinions, because I wasn't listening to other people's opinions. You know, when you're scrolling, like, there's always different opinions and people telling you how you should think about things, and a lot of the times those things are good, but still, you're not using your brain to think for yourself really when you're doing these, when you're scrolling all that time, you know. And obviously that was only 2 days, but the 2 days ended up continuing into over a month where I just didn't have any social media apps on my phone. I would still use certain things, like I didn't ditch the phone completely. I still had YouTube on my phone, and instead of like deleting that as well, I decided that I wanted to just try to be more intentional with my phone use and with what entertainment and when I want to be entertained. So YouTube became my main source of entertainment. I didn't scroll anything. I would only just go on YouTube and watch the long form videos. Again, whenever I'd log into the YouTube app, or I would go on just on my phone in general, I always made sure to set an intention. Okay, what do I want to feel in that moment? What do I want to learn? Why are you doing this instead of just doing it? Because it's like I said, it's the digital flesh where it's like literally like our nervous, like our bodies are hardwired to click. Whenever it's like on my phone, I just click on Instagram. I have to, like, it's just like, oh, it's like my brain just learned to do that habit, just as it does like breathing almost. It's just like you get on your phone, you scroll, you check your social media apps. Like it's so hardwired in there, and I wanted to combat that with instead asking myself, okay, why are you gonna go on your phone right now? What are you gonna learn? What's your intention with this? Not doom scrolling actually completely transformed my mood, my energy, my brain fog, literally everything. The only time I would download TikTok was to post an art video series I made, and because it was also getting banned, I wanted to just like kind of post everything I never posted before. But then, so I'd post something and then I'd just like delete it off my app, off my phone. And if I ever did catch myself starting to scroll, like say like 10 minutes passed and I started scrolling, I was able to remind myself, okay, what are your intentions with this? Because it was like something that like a new habit had formed already, which was crazy. It happened pretty fast, which is, I can't explain that. It's definitely not like that for everyone, but for me, like something just switched in my brain where like instead of like just giving in, I immediately had that habit of being like, hey, what's your intention with this? Like, and then that would immediately take me out, like, oh no, I'm not gonna remember anything. If I'm just keep scrolling, I'm not gonna remember anything. So I could watch a couple videos and then I'm done, okay? Like, I'm done for the day. I know it can feel impossible to stop consuming so much in a world that literally profits off of you consuming as much as possible. Like, people literally profit off of your attention and ruining your attention span. But for me, what helped me is I feel if you give yourself compassion along with discipline, I believe that that is a great way to achieve digital balance. Set intentions every time you open your phone of, okay, what am I intending to do with this time? And don't go on your phone immediately when you wake up, because that's something I learned, that if I go on my phone immediately when I wake up, my brain's just hardwired to do that throughout the day. Like, what you do in the first hour of your morning is so important, and I think it's backed by science, honestly. I'm not a scientist, obviously, but like, it's literally like that, it's true. Like, whatever you do in your first hour dictates so much of how you do what you do throughout your day, what habits you do throughout your day. So if you can at least just like for the first 30 minutes, don't go on your phone at all. Don't check it, don't do anything. That's gonna help already so much. Realize that yes, you deserve to feel good. You deserve to take a break. You deserve to be entertained sometimes. You deserve to feel connected. You don't have to completely eliminate this from your life. You know, you don't have to go cold turkey. You just have to really learn to set boundaries and intentions, because your mind is literally precious gold, and it cannot handle all the information you're giving it. Don't let algorithms determine how you're gonna feel that day. Instead, let yourself determine how you're gonna feel that day and what you want to feel. I'm really glad that I made this painting. I think it really helped me become aware of this pattern I have, and also give myself compassion and acknowledge that there's so many good things that come with the internet. You know, you can learn so much, and it doesn't have to be so black and white. I'm really glad that I'm at a point now where I feel more intentional. Like, I cannot, like, I still don't have TikTok or Instagram like downloaded on my phone. I just go on there to post, and then I don't go on it. And obviously I have slip-ups. Like this morning, the first thing I did was because I had Instagram downloaded today, and so the first thing I did was I just scrolled for like an hour, and it was all like, and it was all like really funny dog videos. They know me. They know I love that shit, okay? So yeah, I kind of slipped up there, but again, I gave myself compassion. I was like, oh, okay, so I did that, but what am I gonna do now? Because no matter what, you are in control of your life, even if you don't feel like you are. And so even when you do have slip-ups, what are you gonna do about that, and how are you gonna move forward? Life is about evolving and learning and trying to adapt with our environment, and I spent so much of my life being so angry about how addictive our phones are, and how intertwined it is into our society. You have to learn some form of acceptance if you're gonna ever find peace within yourself, and really try to work with this and achieve digital balance. So yeah, that's my conclusion. Just be more intentional, and I hope you enjoyed this painting. I have prints of this on my website below, and I hope you enjoy learning a little bit more about this painting.